The Triad region remains one of North Carolina's most attractive housing markets, offering a perfect blend of affordability, quality of life, and economic opportunity. As you consider purchasing a home in 2025, the Sharp Mortgage Team is ready to help. With median home prices significantly lower than the national average, first-time homebuyers and families continue to find excellent value in the Triad. And with programs like NC Housing Financing Down Payment Assistance, your new home may be more affordable than you think. Or if your holiday bills have been stacking up, the Sharp Mortgage Team can help you consolidate your debts and put you on a successful road in 2025. Call them today and they'll advise you on the best strategy. Call Ashley and the folks at the Sharp Mortgage Team at 336-575-9448 today for a no-obligation conversation that could be your best decision all year. The upcoming podcast of Twin City Talk is produced by Tim Beeman of Such and Such Media. Start your own podcasting journey by visiting suchandsuchmedianc.com. These podcasts are produced weekly, and every episode can be found at their website, twincitytalk.com.
Welcome to Twin City Talk. Today we are talking with Zach Brown. He is a Winston-Salem native. He directed a movie here called Hard Surfaces, and he recently started a luxury watch business called Blue Ridge Watch Company. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. It's good to see you.
Yeah, so I want you to share a little bit about that movie. I love that movie, by the way. It was great. It turned out really well, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work. So I grew up here and left when I was 17. So I guess 1998 or 1999 or something like that. And while I was growing up, Winston was much, much different than it is now. And I think around 2014, I was living in Los Angeles, and I came home for 4th of July for one reason or another, and I was staying with my cousin that lived in Winston factory lofts. And we just kind of ran around in the town and went to a lot of bars and restaurants and went up on Trade Street, and I saw like art galleries, and I realized that Winston is not at all what it was like when I was growing up.
It's not the wasteland that it was.
No, yeah. And downtown especially, downtown when I was a kid was a pretty dangerous place to go. And anyway, I was really impressed with it, and I was working on a story, and I decided right then and there on the 4th of July, I was like, I'm going to write this story to take place in Winston-Salem. So I wrote really, really, really fast and kind of got into the development of it and ended up shooting here in the June 2015. And it was a really low budget project. So I wanted to look and see what Winston-Salem had to offer as far as like crew, talent, anything film industry related. And so I brought my two lead actors, my cinematographer, myself, and the producer, which is also one of the actresses, and everybody else was hired from this area. And I think we had 30-some people that were employed on the project, not including extras. Including extras is a lot more than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of film talent around here. Burgess can attest to that.
Very fortunate in the area. Yeah. It's a great hub for all kinds of unexpected talent.
Yeah. I was completely surprised. My cinematographer worked very regularly in Los Angeles, mostly in music videos and such. And I remember at the end of the shoot, he told everyone that he hired from here. We had a few people that had just graduated from the School of the Arts, and then we had a handful of people that were interns that were still students there that we were able to get student credit for internship over the summer. And the cinematographer pulled them all aside and was like, dude, if you're ever in LA, you got a spot on any of my crews. So we were all very, very impressed with how talented everybody was that we hired here.
I like how you made Winston-Salem have its own kind of role, like you can see throughout the film. It's really cool.
Yeah, I tried to do that. Like I said, it's the main reason I wanted to shoot here, just by seeing how much it had changed, It's kind of reminded me a lot of Los Angeles, the way the art You know, it was very artsy, and the little different pockets of, you know, all the business people hang out here, all the artsy people hang out here, and like a much smaller version of Los Angeles with a lot less traffic.
And Southern charm.
Yeah, and Southern charm, yeah.
Yeah, so what have you been doing since that film?
So I wrote, co-produced, directed, and had a very tiny role in that movie. And what I learned from that is that directing is probably not not my forte. Is certainly the most stressful job on a film set. So
Yes.
very much so. Not even a question. Producing is stressful as well, but they kind of go hand in hand. And we had great producers, which even with that, it was still super stressful.
Do you enjoy producing?
Did I enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It's nice to see everything come together. It's nice to reach out, and you know, we raised a lot of the funding here in Winston-Salem for Hard Surfaces. So that's, you know, very much so producing and just rubbing elbows with people and meeting somebody, and they're like, "Oh, you should meet this guy, then you should meet this girl, then you should meet this person." Next thing you know, somebody's, you know, wanting to help fund your project. So yeah, producing was a lot.
That's part of the reason I asked, is because, you know, if you're writing, if you're directing, if you're producing, I mean, if you're doing all those things at the same time, you know, for me, I've never written, but I've directed, produced, and acted all at the same time. And juggling all three hats at the same time it's a lot. And for me, it's like producing is the necessary evil, and it's great in a lot of ways, but it's also, you got to take off the artistic hat for a minute and get really down into the business part of it. And if you miss anything, especially on a smaller budgeted piece, that can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then because it all falls back on your shoulders while you're trying to be creative at the same time.
Exactly. Doing all three at once is incredibly hard, because the producing never stops, the problems never stop, the directing never stops. And as an actor, you really got to be focused. You know, you can't just especially if you're doing something really intense and you're, you know, doing a super intense scene, and then somebody comes up and is like, "Hey, we got a problem with the next location." And as a producer, you have to step aside and help solve that problem. Or, you know, as a director, it's like, "Hey, this camera angle's not working, or this thing's not working." So I think it's, for me, I'd like to just focus on one at a time moving forward. Ideally. I've been doing mostly writing. So during the pandemic, that's when I moved back out here from Los Angeles, which was, you know, kind of the year-long process. I came out here during the shutdown, and then kind of after going back and forth and seeing what LA has become, it's gotten a lot more. Most of the places I would go out to eat are all closed down permanently, and I was like, well, you know, I like it out here a lot more than I did when I was younger, so I decided to move out here. But during the pandemic, I wrote 4 screenplays. So we've been shopping some of those around. You know, I did a few screenwriting competitions and whatnot with some of them, and got pretty far up. And we have 2 right now that are getting pretty close to getting going. So writing is what I've kind of landed on, and just recently last year, well, not last year, but a little before, I got my acting agent back, so I started acting again. I saw you a few times in class over there, but my work schedule, bartending, ended up changing, so I wasn't free to come do that anymore. But yeah, I got my acting.
What happened to you?
What's that? Yeah. I'll be back soon. I'm working. The watches are slowly getting me out from behind the bar, so hopefully I have more time for stuff like that. But funny story is, I bugged my acting agent for probably 8 or 9 months to take me back, and finally she was like, "Just go somewhere and tape some scenes and send it back to me," because I was with her back in the day when I was in LA, and she would send me for stuff in the Southeast. And I went to Drew Matthews, who was actually in Hard Surfaces. He's got a studio out there in Greensboro, in studio, I think it is. And I taped a few audition tapes and sent it in to her, and she was like, "Okay, fine, I'll take you back." And then like a week later, the shutdown happened with the strikes and the acting strike and the screenwriting strike. So it took about a year before I got to start auditioning, and then beginning of 2024, kind of got going with that again.
How did you get into luxury watches? That's random.
So I was sitting out front of Burgess's acting class, waiting for the class to start, and I was on the phone with a buddy of mine who I hadn't talked to in forever, who lives in Los Angeles, and he was asking me, I was talking about trying to get a side hustle, and he was like, well, what are you going to do? And I thought, well, I'll start buying Sprinter vans and converting them into camper vans. And he was like, well, that sounds cool. How does that work? And I was like, well, you put up a bunch of money and you buy a Sprinter van, and then you spend a few months fixing it up, and then you flip it and try to make a little money off of it. He's like, why would you do that? Why don't you just do that with watches? And turns out that he had been doing it for a year and was doing really well with it. And there's a big community online with a lot of like private wholesale groups and stuff that you can find good watches in. And I gave it a shot, and so far, the more I do it, the easier it gets, and the more clients I'm getting, and it's slowly becoming a thing that's very promising.
It's a crazy underground market that nobody knows exists.
Yeah,
this very cult-like following of watch collectors. I am not one, but yes, I've heard a lot about people doing this.
Very much so, man. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I didn't know anything about watches, and that's what I told my buddy, a little over a year ago. He was like, it doesn't matter, you'll learn. And now I know a lot about watches. I love them. I've never worn a watch. I'm wearing one now. I wear them all the time now that I'm doing this because, I don't know. It's just really cool. It's fun to talk about them. Watch people get together. There's like a secret language, you have with each other. You can, see whatever watch they have on their wrist. And a lot of times if you call it out and it's a more obscure brand, then they're super surprised.
They're impressed. Like, ooh, he knows what I'm wearing.
Yeah, you must be a watch guy.
Yeah, it is. It's super interesting. Oh, you said that about, don't know what you'd be doing with flipping watches. And then I thought, the Sprinter van would be significantly more difficult, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. You build one thing out spend 3 months on it. But now, I can, a few weeks ago, I bought a watch and had it sold before it arrived, which is always nice.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. That's cool. That sounds like a fun hobby.
Yep.
You want to get that? Put them on speaker.
Thought I had it silenced. Must be important. It's probably a watch client.
That is important.
Well, that is important, yes.
New year, new you, right? Well, how about new home? Maybe your focus in 2025 is buying, selling, or investing in real estate. Maybe it's purchasing your first home or building wealth for your family. Whatever your goals are, the agents at the Ginther Group can help. It's never too early to begin working with Blake Ginther and his team, who have been a trusted resource to the Triad community since 2010. To reach Blake and his team at the Ginther Group, just visit theginthergroup.com or give them a call, 336-283-8689.
So what do you love about Winston, besides how much it's changed?
The artistic side of it, Winston's a very artistic town. I don't know if that's because of the School of the Arts, but I'm sure that certainly doesn't hurt. But yeah, it's just a cool little town that's also a city at the same time. It's not, you have a lot of the city life and downtown life, and the hustle and bustle, but also is still a small town at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's a repetitive thing we hear a lot, and I think it's what draws most people to it is it has everything you want without being overwhelming, without having horrible traffic, without, a lot of the downsides you get from some of the bigger cities just don't really exist here, but you do get the charm, you do get the history that people love, and I think everybody loves the fact that it's growing, and the way that it's growing is super cool, so...
Yeah, I think I was listening to a few of the episodes earlier, and one of your guests mentioned the parking. And having lived in Los Angeles, I'm sure you can attest to this. The parking really is an amazing thing to go somewhere, and there's a parking lot for that particular place. Which that sounds crazy if you're from here and you haven't really been to Los Angeles or New York or any of those larger cities. Then it's hard to understand that's such a blessing, having a parking lot at the place, because usually in Los Angeles, whether it's an audition or a meeting or a coffee or a date or anything that you're going on, you plan 15 or 20 minutes in addition to the traffic to make sure that you can find parking, because if you don't find the correct parking, you're going to end up with a parking ticket. probably faster than you can even get to where you're walking to after you park there.
And not like a $5 ticket, like a $68 ticket, which is the exact amount that I got multiple times.
That was a very exact number that you
it was very, very
We
specific.
call that experience.
I had multiple $68 tickets in LA.
And that's the thing my dad used to say when I lived in LA. He'd be like, how in the world are you getting so many parking tickets? And I'm like, dude, you need to come out here and see this. I'm not a stupid person. You know, I'm pretty intuitive when it comes to pretty much anything in life, you know. And
but you can't decipher the parking signs.
No, they're all different.
No.
They contradict each other. You know, you can park on Tuesdays you can't park on Tuesdays between 5 and 6, but every other Tuesday you can't park between 2 and 4. There's street sweeping between 7 and 8 on the 1st, 7th, and 9th Tuesday of the
it is
quarter.
exactly like that, and they're stacked. There'll be a sign here, and then a sign here, and then a sign here, and a sign here, all on the same post.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And so you pull up to the space and you have to decipher whether or not this is a time that is free, metered, not allowed. Everywhere you go, every single one of them. And to your point, I remember one time I lived in Santa Monica, and we drove up to the Palisades to get a meal. We were meeting some people. And it took us, 20, 25 minutes to get there, which, by the way, that distance in Winston would have been about 4 minutes.
Oh, it's 2 or 3 miles from Santa Monica to the
It was
Palisades.
20, 25 minutes to get there. And so, just because it's light after light after light, and that's not a joke, like every 150 yards it would be a light. And we get there, and of course, the streets are packed. There's up one side, down the other, and the only open spaces are permit. So just no parking. So we drove around for at least half an hour trying to find parking. And then when we did, it was a 20-minute walk. And we all concluded that we could have walked from Santa Monica to the Palisades faster.
Or taking a bus or an Uber or a taxi or something.
Any other mode of transportation would I could have foot scootered there faster than riding, parking, walking. And it cost me $20 in parking.
If only they had bird scooters back then.
Right?
They were just getting popular when I left.
I'm also talking about days, it was like Thomas Guide and stuff like that. You were never around for Thomas Guide days, were you?
No,
So are you guys familiar with Thomas Guide? So anybody who's ever lived in LA will know what I'm talking about if it was long enough ago. When I first got there, GPS and so forth, we didn't have that on the phone. This is way back when. So everybody in their car, and this probably was 10 times more unsafe than our phones. You had a phone book, basically, called the Thomas Guide. And you would look up the address of where you're going. And it was a longitude, latitude map that you would, color coordinated, ABC, 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's a spot. And then you'd have to decipher the roads. Okay, all right, got it. Like that. And you would have to follow this map. And you'd get to the different quadrants. And so everybody bought a Thomas Guide. It's the only way you could get around LA, and it was super complicated and annoying, but that's how we did it. So
that reminds me of a funny story. When I did acting classes in San Francisco for 2 years, and then my acting coach, as I was leaving, was this guy named Jeffrey Weissman, and I was like, I'm going to LA. I'm going to make it. And he was like, all right, cool. Well, come over to my house. I'm going to give you some stuff that's going to help you out. And I'm like, all right, he's going to contact me with some agents. Like, this is going to be great. I go all the way over to his house. He lived up across the Golden Gate Bridge, somewhere, I think up in Marin County. And I was hanging out with him. He's like, all right, so you're ready for the thing that's going to help you the most? And I was like, yeah. And he gave me a map. And he was like, okay, here are the quickest routes. I've marked them between studios and where you're going to have auditions and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, thanks. I have a GPS on my phone. Yeah. He gave me this map that was going to help me in my acting career in Los Angeles, which,
he was there for you.
He was, yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Did you ever use the map?
Of course. Yeah, I did for a little while, but then you kind of learn the ins and outs, and you learn what neighborhoods to go through to get around certain stoplights and intersections and stuff like that. And then Waze came, and you kind of didn't need any maps anymore. It was really... Yeah. The only thing was Waze would be like, all right, turn left here. And you're like, that's 6 lanes of traffic with no stoplight. How am I going to turn left here,
Yeah, Waze will do that sometimes. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard I'm probably is, that Waze has advertisers and so forth so they will redirect you certain ways that aren't necessarily the fastest. So you'll go past, various different
it's true.
gas stations and restaurants. And
You
things
think
like
it's
that.
true?
It's
Yeah.
not- it's
Well,
true.
I mean, if you do it in Winston and you know the fastest way to get somewhere, you're just curious what Waze will say. Yeah, it's like around your elbow sometimes. Like, what are you trying to drive me past?
I'm not even hungry right now.
What is it you want me to sightsee? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What about that documentary about the guy that had never seen the ocean? Like, how'd you even tell us about that? How
Oh
you even-
yeah,
that was
okay. The
so
Mountain
cool.
Man. The Mountain Man. It's actually available on YouTube for free. He was a neighbor when I was 8 or 9 years old. My dad moved from Kernersville, where I grew up to Patrick County, Virginia, in the middle of nowhere, and we lived at the end of basically a 2-mile long dirt road. And there was this guy on the road named Harrison, and we always called him the Mountain Man. He didn't have electricity or running water. He got water from the spring. He cooked on a stove with a fire, and he grew all of his vegetables. And he had chickens that he ate the eggs from, and also ate the chickens. And he had pigs. He did everything himself. He was just
Self-sustainable.
self-sustainable man. And he didn't have a vehicle. He had never gone more than he could really walk in a day. And I was like, well, maybe I'll do a documentary about this guy and take him out and show him a few things. So, yeah, he had never seen the ocean before. We took him to see the ocean. He was quite old when we did it, so he couldn't, enjoy it or go swimming or anything. But he was pretty in awe whenever he saw the waves and how big it was, and how that there could be water going further than you could see to see the other side, because all he'd seen is like rivers and ponds and stuff like that. And we took him to a hibachi restaurant. That was fun. And he was just the whole time wide-eyed, like, oh my God, was this guy throwing knives around? Like, kind of worried a little
Did
bit.
he duck every time that there was like some
He was just,
knife
like,
trick?
yeah, it kind of,
That's such an interesting / obscure choice. Where here's the ocean in its majesty and hibachi.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of things that we had at our disposal that would be interesting. Like, you could take them to a regular restaurant, but the hibachi, they
Why
cook
do
it.
that?
Yeah, exactly. He's doing a show and everything. We also took him to an aquarium, and he saw a bunch of sharks and big fish and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was really cool. I think it's technically a short film. It's under 50 minutes. I think it's like 42 minutes or something like that. But yeah, if you go on YouTube and search The Mountain Man, you'll find that. That's a incredibly low budget.
Well, in all honesty, though, we've all been to the ocean many times, right?
Yeah.
It's still, I don't go often as much as I know you go a lot, and I'm sure you probably go a lot. I don't like the beach, and I'll tell you why. My family was in the sand business, so why was I going to go on vacation and see something I can see anytime I wanted? But anyway, you go there, and if you're like in a hotel or something looking over it, just the awe of seeing this vastness that it is, never ending.
Yeah.
That it looks.
It's easy to take advantage of.
Yeah, and it's just like there's still a feeling, again, as much as I don't particularly care to be at the beach, of when you're there, it's
Yeah.
A
There
lot.
are those moments, like I'm standing on a mountain ridge, standing at the ocean, especially with not a lot of people around, it's very much majestic.
Yeah.
It makes you get a sense of things.
The biggest moment I ever had like that was the first time I saw the Grand Canyon. They say that the saying it's breathtaking. It literally was breathtaking. It was so big, I had a hard time breathing. I was like, wow, this is a massive, it's much bigger than, have any of you guys ever seen the Grand Canyon?
Just from the sky.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when you stand at the edge of it, it's just overwhelmingly big. But you mentioned taking sand to the beach. My dad, for a lot of people around here, I'm sure they might be familiar with the koi company, Blue Ridge Fish Hatchery. My dad was one of the owners of that.
okay.
And he grew up his entire life a fish farmer, one of the most successful fish farmers in the country. And he got to where he could take a month-long vacation every year. And every October, he would take an entire month-long vacation to go fishing in Ocracoke. It's like you take a vacation from fish farming to go fishing in Ocracoke. And I guess that means he had chosen the right career, because he
That's what he wanted to do.
go fishing on his vacation, a totally different kind of fish. But
Yeah.
Life is full of celebrations, birthdays, holidays, life milestones, and so much more. And who has been helping generations of families celebrate these events? Our friends at Dewey's Bakery. And even if you aren't planning for something in the near future, you don't have to wait to enjoy something savory and delicious from Dewey's. Maybe you just need something to get you through your Mondays. Drop by every Monday for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary. Just come celebrate the start of a new week. So, if you're hearing this ad on a Monday and you're in your car, reset that GPS and get to one of their 3 Triad locations immediately in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. And any day of the week, you can find the perfect item with fast and easy ordering options at local.deweys.com. Plus, Dewey's does so much to help celebrate our community. To date, they've given back over $4 million to local schools, churches, and other nonprofits. Your next celebration isn't complete without something special from Dewey's Bakery. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor. And that's Jennifer Johnson of 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors. 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
It's also, I equate it to, people who live at the beach will go other places because that's not a vacation to them. That's home.
The outside dog always wants
I stood at the base of Mont Saint Michel in France, and like this, and people are walking by, just talking, and I'm like, how can you just not fall at the base of this and just bawl? Because I was. They're like, I work here. I see it every day. But I'm like, that was truly breathtaking. I did all 6'2", 300 pounds of me just bawling tears like a kid who got that shiny toy they wanted for Christmas. And it was something to behold, but I just couldn't understand how everybody standing there, even if they were from there, was not feeling the same way that I was.
I wonder if people that around here feel the same way whenever people come visit, when they see like Pilot Mountain, which is just up 52 here. That's such a simple thing to us because we've all seen it our entire lives. But sometimes if you drive by, actually take a minute to look at it or just go up there and take a hike or something. It's actually pretty amazing. It's a really cool.
It is
cool little thing to have around here.
I think a lot of people feel that way when they see like Old Salem or Bethabara here because they're not used to seeing such like historic places in other parts of the country.
Yeah,
and not to get off on this necessarily, so I won't. But but briefly, so it seems like a lot of stoicism and stuff is just back in vogue, and people are talking about that, and I've kind of taken to hobbyist with that, messing around with it. And so much of it focuses on simple things. It's focusing on taking your time with your coffee, to bother to stop and smell it. When you walk out the front door, don't beeline for your car. Stop and take a breath. Take a look at the trees. Enjoy the majesty of things, and you start to realize the things that you so quickly just take for granted because you're moving throughout your day. But especially now, I don't think that that's an arguable point that everybody would agree that today's pace, due to our instant accessibility to everyone, everything, all the time, short span of attention, plus how many things you can cram into a day makes you feel like you should and or could. And then all the simple stuff that really is so much more impacting than the majority of the things that we would do otherwise becomes this, thing on the side, take it for granted, maybe see it once a month, a little trip with the family or a hike, whatever. The more I've started to shut down my brain, which is admittedly not easy for me, it's always spinning, but
it's a curse.
It is, yeah, well, it is. I mean, that's kind of how I'm wired, which is fun for me because I like to create and I'm always doing that. But it's also so great when I can just stop for a minute and appreciate all the little things so much. And doing that it's reintroduced majesty into everything that you do because you realize how incredible the things are around you, Pilot Mountain, whatever you want, if you just take a second. So
or something as simple as drinking taking a sip of ice cold water. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at anybody else. Just take a sip of that water and realize how refreshing it is.
Yeah, and the fact that a lot of people don't have access to that—that's a whole other thing. But yes,
my favorite thing about Stoicism, not to go off
on all that, and here we are.
Is the I guess Marcus Aurelius said, if I don't believe that I've been harmed, then I have not been harmed. And there are a lot in life we face a lot of adversity, especially in the film industry and the entertainment industry. There's a ton of adversity and many things that can go against you. But you have to stay positive, and I think Stoicism helps you find a way to stay positive because if you don't feel that you've been wronged, then there's nothing to grieve over.
Yeah, I do like that. I mean, it's just the idea that we have. I say the idea of it. I think it's just truth. With all the Stoicism stuff, it's all just basic truth that you have the choice to make whatever determination you want about how you're being affected, how you're moving forward, how you choose to treat every situation you're in. And it's not just a matter of saying, well, I'm only going to err on the side of positive. It's taking control over what you want to do with your life moving forward. And I just subscribe to that as much as possible anyway. But yeah, it's really kind of nice to see a lot of that simple coming back into fashion.
With every adversity, there's a place for opportunity for growth, So a lot of times if you focus on being upset about facing adversity, then there's something about it that you're missing that is your next opportunity to take you to a better place or to give you some more success in whatever you're trying to do.
Have you guys heard did I cut you off? Are you getting ready to say something? Mm-hmm. Oh. Have you guys heard that, the way that I saw it, it was some Instagram post. So who knows how accurate this is, but some version of this, and I don't know if it's really ancient or somebody made it sound this way. But regardless, I loved it. It's the parable of the Chinese farmer. Have you guys heard this thing?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm going to butcher it, but basically it goes: there's this Chinese farmer, and he has a son, and his son is riding this horse, and he gets thrown from the horse, and
so that's bad luck.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I jumped one. So he's got this horse, and the horse. Let's start this over so you can edit this, or maybe you want to leave it that way because it'd be more entertaining. So, Chinese farmer, he's got this horse. Horse runs away. Neighbor comes over and goes, "Oh, that's too bad about your horse." And farmer says, "Yeah, maybe." And then one day the horse returns, and they're like, your horse came back. That's great news. Maybe. And then the son is riding the horse and gets thrown from the horse and breaks his leg. Oh, the neighbors, that's too bad. Maybe. And then the draft comes in, and they're getting all the young men. They can't draft the son because his leg was broken. Maybe. So the idea is that, whether it's good or bad, is it good or bad? Or if it's all maybe, then your perspective can change to the idea that there's something beyond whatever it is we're perceiving that has value. And so, again, I don't know if that really is an ancient parable or somebody made it up 6 months ago and put it on Instagram, but regardless, I really loved it.
Well, there was a different version of that story that was in Northern Exposure back in the 90s.
Oh, there you go.
Because Maryland, the native or Alaskan native character on there who actually told that story, but it was with native people. Mm-hmm. So it's probably been because native people are inherently Asian, so it probably was true.
Yeah.
But like I always say with me, when the question always comes up, if you can go back and change something, what would you change? My answer is always not a single thing.
That's how I am.
Not one single thing would I change.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say that
we are our experiences. So all the good things, all the bad things are what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, right? Would you or wouldn't you? Yeah, I guess you could spin around on that, but
You'd have to lose all the things that you do like currently. You know, if you go back and make that change to get something else, then you lose. You know, like I have a dog right now. I couldn't imagine making the decision. You know, big decision led me to getting that dog, and I couldn't imagine not having that dog now because I love the dog very much.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, if you did change one of those things, that, you know, that ripple effect.
Domino effect.
Who knows where you would be without it? You think, oh, if I could just take away that pain or that experience or this relationship or whatever, and then you think, okay, well, if I stopped and kind of reverse engineered that, where would I be now?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, to your point.
I've asked myself that a lot about, you know, would I still be in Los Angeles if the pandemic never happened? I don't know, but I've thought about it enough to where I know that I don't want to think about it anymore because I'm here now and I'm happy now. So
Yeah. What if's a dangerous question.
it is.
Go down a.
Yeah, not terribly fruitful, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if moving forward, you know, what if this?
Well, no, that's
happened? What if this?
Yeah. Do you do that? Is your brain constantly spin on what do I want to do next? What's the future look like?
Yeah, I've been doing something recently called manifestation meditating that I learned from a guy named James R. Doty. And people say you don't want to jinx it, but I think there's you know, a lot of productivity and thinking, imagining what you want, the way you want things to go. You can't be disappointed if they don't go that way, but imagining things going a certain way, manifesting them in a way, it can be really helpful because it allows your subconscious to pick up on things that you would have missed otherwise, you know, because you've got this one goal and you're envisioning it happening, you know, you're envisioning this movie getting made and something else pops up that's going to help you get it made. And if you're not focused on that end result and seeing it and visualizing it, then you might miss something along the way that's going to help you get there.
Yeah.
I had heard this study. It was a big study that was done that the number one quality towards achieving whatever it is you're trying to achieve is being able to see the end result. And if you can't envision the end result pretty specifically, you're going to have a very difficult time ever getting there because you don't really know what it is you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
It's
You just
nebulous.
be aimlessly wandering around.
Yeah. I mean, you could say, I want to make a movie, or you could even say, I want to make an adventure movie. You could start to narrow that down, but if you really don't know what that looks like, you know, or the business or the family or the relationship, I mean, you name it, basically, if you don't have a pretty strong vision about what the end result looks like, it's very difficult to achieve. And I thought a lot about that, and you have to know that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. Also heard Oprah talking about it too. Okay, Oprah's talking about it too. That's an interesting. What's her spin? And she said that if I were going to tell anybody, you know, they said, what would you do if you could tell anybody to find success? What would you tell them? Make sure that you understand what the end result of your vision looks like, because you'll never get there if you don't. Well, there's one more echo from Oprah herself.
You have to know where you're going in order to get there.
Yep.
Kinda, right? Yeah. And there's something about the adventure, but without the end result, kind of tricky. So. Yeah, a lot to manifestation, probably.
Yeah.
How can people find you for your luxury watches or
Luxury watches,
or your movies or anything?
My Instagram is Zachary Brown, Zachery, and then Brown like the color. I don't do much. I don't post much about entertainment stuff on there. That's more just pictures of my dog. But she's a pretty dog. Feel free to follow and check her out. As far as the watches, the best way to reach out to me would be on Instagram as well. I have a bunch of watches in inventory, and if I don't have them in inventory, I've gotten really good at sourcing watches for people and being able to find very specific watches that people want. That's Blue Ridge Watch Co. at Blue Ridge Watch Co. on Instagram. So yeah, just send me a message if you're looking for a watch.
Is Hard Surfaces still on Amazon?
No, it did a 5-year run on Amazon, and now I'm still trying to figure out where it's going to go next.
We'll post that on your Instagram so people can see.
Yeah, I will. I certainly will.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
Good
it's
talking to you.
Yeah, it's good chatting with you guys. It's good to see you both as well, and nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Nice meeting you.
You can find us on TwinCityTalk.com or Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening. The views and opinions portrayed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the distributors and hosting companies. And if you love this podcast, that's great, but don't think about stealing it. Reach out to us and talk about the content, because it is copyrighted.